I've got me a big job today that I've been dreading doing, but I'm to the point now that I don't have any choice. If you've seen this skid steer in some of my other videos, you've seen this, probably noticed this big chunk out of the track. It's not really been a problem up until here recently, but it's starting to slip now that enough of that cord, I guess you'd call it, is torn loose, and the whole track is stretched now. So now it's starting to slip on the rollers. So I've changed several tracks on different types of skid steers, but never on an ASV. I got me a new one. I've had it about 6 months, just haven't changed it out. One reason because it's been winter time and I haven't used it a whole lot, but the other, I've just been dreading doing it. But it's not really that hard, far as I can tell. All you gotta do is loosen up this track adjuster and take this pin out, or probably both of them, I'd say, and get that whole thing out of there. And then you take these bolts here, there's the locking bolts, and once you do that, this whole assembly here will swing out, and that allows the track to drop down enough where these little lugs, the gear teeth I guess you'd call them, will slip past these rollers, which it makes it pretty tough because there's 3 rollers and there's 2 sets of those gear teeth that's got to come over those idler gears or rollers. So, but where this swings out all the way out here into the side, that'll give you plenty of slack, so it shouldn't be too bad. I'm gonna try to do it myself, but if I can't, I'll just get one of the boys to help me tomorrow. I just got back from Harbor Freight and went and got me a set of these 22-ton jack stands. I've been needing them anyway, and this skid steer weighs a little bit over 10,000 pounds. So I went and got me some to put under it, make it a little bit more stable. I was going to use crib blocks like I use on everything else, but I needed some for this service truck anyway, where I do loader tires, and you can see right there, they're all over the place. I do rock truck tires and loader tires and stuff all the time, and I needed those anyway, so now I got me some. I use my skid steer as an excuse to go get them. So reach. So let's see if I can get my impact in there. Well, it came out, but it's pretty tough. It's probably the first time they've ever been out, because I'm thinking these were the original tracks that was on this skid steer. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I bought this thing off of a rental company, and they said that it didn't have many hours on it, but I'm not real sure because the it's got a digital display in it and it don't work. And I was going to replace it, but they want $700 just for that little, it's a little tiny LED screen about that big. They want $700 for it. So I don't know, I really need to fix it, but that's a lot of money. Let me try to get these pins out of here. That come out pretty easy. So after I found that little hydraulic ram system yesterday on the internet, I started looking around YouTube last night and actually found a video of it working. And I'll post it in the video, and I'll also put a link down in the bottom. But you'll see that it goes in the place of this jack right here, and it pulls the whole system back. And I don't know how long it'd take to get one if I ordered it, and I'm sure it's going to be expensive, but I have two of these hydraulic rams. I have a big one, then I've got this little 4-ton that I'm going to try to make my own. Or I had another thought that I might try to make some kind of a pulley system that hooks in right here and have a cable go back here that I can pull it into place. or at least pull it back here where I can put a pin in it and swivel it out. So those are my two options, but I just got to decide which way I'm going to go with it. Turns pretty good for a 20-some-year-old machine. So I think if I'm going to go with the hydraulic ram, what I'm going to do is use this piece of metal right here and make me a bracket. I'll cut it in half or down to a reasonable size, and I can bolt it right here, and then I'll make another bracket to go up here into this little slot in order to get something to push against, and that way I can push it in as far as I can with the ram, and then I'll take it loose there and put it here and then push it on down. That should be enough to give me enough travel to make it swing out. But in order to swing it out, I've got to get it all the way down to here so I can put a pin in it first. And if I use the pulley system, I'm going to have to make a whole assembly right here to hook into that. And I've got some things that I think might work. I just got to get it all laid out where I can look at it and make a decision. My other thought on this was using this old contraption I made about 20 years ago. You can see right here, it's basically a drill with a long shaft and a gear reduction. But then I made this piece to go in it to convert it to a chain drive and gear reduce it even more. So I'm thinking about trying to use something like this. I'll make me a shaft to go in here and put a way to put a cable on it and turn it into like a little mini winch. But that was my other thought. So I'm going to mess around with this a little bit and try to come up with stuff and see if it works. I had pretty much decided I was going to use this old carpet winder. They used to use these to roll up those big giant rolls of carpet in carpet stores. But what I was going to do was use this square stock in there, and then it was going to be welded to this pin here, and it would have had a cable wrapped around it. So basically what I was doing was building a little, basically a miniature winch. But then I remembered that I had this old four-wheeler winch on a shelf in my shop. It's been sitting there for probably 10 or 15 years, and I took it over to the skid steer to see if it would fit back in that hole, and it fits in there perfect. So all I've got to do is try to make me a bracket for the bottom so it'll pin in on the skid steer to hold it so it don't kick off to the side while I'm pulling. But I think this will be plenty strong enough to pull that back, and plus it's got a remote control on it, so I can control how much pressure I'm putting on it while it's pulling. If I have to, I can use a bar to help pry it back as I'm pulling with the winch. So I've abandoned this idea for the little winch. It'll save me a lot of time, and I don't have to fabricate something except for making the bracket to mount it on. Well, there's what I came up with. It's nothing fancy, but I think it's going to work. It should fit in there pretty good. It's going to be a tight fit, but I can always raise the track up a little bit if I need a little bit of room to scoot it in there, but I believe it's going to work. So here's my contraption I'm going to try to use, and what it's going to do is this pin will go through this piece of pipe I welded on here, and then it'll hook into these little brackets, and then I'm going to attach it over here on this one to try to pull it all back. But I'm going to power it with this jump box I got from Harbor Freight. I'm hoping it'll work. If it don't, I'll have to come up with something else. Okay, so here's the remote. I gotta see if I can remember which way this thing goes. There, I got it. So that right there should pull the whole assembly. I think it'll work. I've got to get these last two bolts out before I try to pull it. That figures, there's a nut on the back side of that thing. Yeah, this one's going to be hard right here. It's up in that hole. I can barely get to it, and I just about messed up by putting my jack stand in the way. But I think I can get in there. It's going to be tight though. I hate it when a bolt gets loose enough where you can't turn it with the ratchet, but you can't turn it with your hand either. I finally got it out of there. You'd think they'd weld the nut on the back side of that so you didn't have to try to hold it with something. You can't get a wrench in there. There's no room for a ratchet, so old trusty vice grips there is what I used. Okay, I think all the bolts are out. It's all hooked up. Let's see what happens here. I may have to start this thing up and roll it this track backwards to try to get it to pull up. It's putting a lot of pressure on that right there. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to do. They made it look so easy in the video. I'd say with hydraulics it'd probably pull it up, but that little winch is not strong enough. So let me start it up and see what it'll do. Well, my battery died right in the middle of moving that forward, but it worked. It took me some prying on it a little bit and trying to get it straight, but it finally moved up. I was beginning to wonder if I was going to be able to get my hydraulic hoses out of the way, but I kept lifting up on them little by little and it went on past the winch. So now what I got to do is get the winch out there and then try to get these. There's a hole here to put a pin through. Try to get that lined up and swing that out so I can get the track off there. So that's not too bad after you figure out how to do it. I was beginning to wonder if I was going to be able to get it out of there. I got a couple of these rollers need to be replaced. I don't know. I probably ought to try to order some, especially that one right there. That one's pretty bad. That one's bad. The rest of them seem to be okay. So I guess my next step is to try to get the track up over those rollers so I can get it off. I pried a little bit on the back and it's pretty tough, but it's moving real slow. I'm gonna have to put some soap on those things, see if I can get them to move a little bit easier, but I don't know. It's looking like I'm gonna have to do some more work this thing before I put the track back on. I knew those rollers were a little bit chewed up, but I didn't realize they was that bad. Now that I'm looking at them, they're pretty bad. And those things are $130 a piece. And it's got 6 on each side, so I really need to fix it right now while I got it apart, but I may have to wait. Take it back apart some other time now that I know how to do it. Well, it's off. It's about time. Man, that wore me out. Yeah, I'm gonna have to replace these. They're a whole lot worse than I thought they were. Them things looked good 4 years ago when I bought this thing, but I ran it so much in gravel that it just chewed those up. That's the worst thing about track skid steers, is the if you run them in gravel, it eats those idler wheels up. The new ones, you got an option to get steel or aluminum, but they're higher than the rubber ones, so I'm going to have to make a decision what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to do something though. There's no point in putting it back together like this. Yeah, I shouldn't have cleaned it up. The more I clean it up, the worse it looks. Yeah, these idler wheels are in really bad shape. I don't think I have much choice but to go ahead and replace them. That's a lot of money though. I think they range anywhere from $130 to $140 some dollars a piece, depending on which kind you get. Depending on if you get the rubber, the aluminum, or the metal. I've just got to figure out which way I'm going to go with it.